Carnival was a staple form of celebration for centuries throughout most of Europe. Influences of this can be seen in many aspects of life throughout history. One significant aspect of Irish life that experienced this influence was the funeral wake.
Carnival was featured prominently throughout Europe and European history for centuries, with carnivals and feasts recorded as far back as medieval times. According to author Mikhail Bakhtin, large medieval cities devoted an average of 3 months a year to these festivities.
Carnival was always very much centered on celebrating life and looking to the future. It has been depicted as a time of overindulgence in both food and in the body, with images of sexual life and feasting used to represent the overall feeling of the events. In Bakhtin's analysis of Franco's Rabelais, he wrote, Rabelais' work, that is, images of the human body with its food, drink, defecation, and sexual life, plays a predominant role. The leading themes of these images of bodily life are fertility, growth, and a brimming overabundance. Abundance and the all people's element also determine the gay and festive character of all the images of bodily life. They do not reflect the drabness of everyday life existence. End quote.
Carnival was about celebrating being alive, just as the Merry Wake was often a community's way of facing death. According to Billy McFlowen, when death comes and robs the life from a member of your community, you can collapse and succumb to the depressive responses that you might experience after death. Or, as a community, you can stand strong and say one of us has died, but we are vital, we are young, we are healthy. We will stand up to death and we will face it and we will stare it down. We will show our strength and we will show our life. These carnivalesque wakes were not, as one might expect of a funeral, times of somber mourning. While the families did mourn their dead, the community as a whole viewed these wakes as more of a celebration of their own lives as well as the life of the deceased than a time of grieving.
For people who have a sort of I would say, a more holistic or a more grounded view of death and its greater place in reality, then the end of a life well lived should not really be tragic because we know it's coming. And part of the human condition is that we're aware of our death as soon as we become fully aware. So the fact that there should be a celebratory element to it, I don't think is incongruous.
Death was not viewed as a loss so much as an inevitability of life. There were exceptions, of course. Wakes differed depending on the age of the deceased. Anne Ridge wrote, The whole tone of the wake, however, depended upon the circumstances of the death. If a young person had died, there was a genuine sorrow, and the wake was a somber occasion. But if it was an older person, the event was more of a social occasion, and was looked forward to, particularly by young people.
Wakes were also a way for members of the community to celebrate with each other and provide a release from the stresses of everyday life. Similarly, according to Bakhtin, during Carnival there is a temporary suspension of all hierarchic distinctions and barriers among men and of certain norms and prohibitions of usual life.
Many of the entertainments found at a wake held ties to Carnival. For instance, feasting, which was a major feature of Carnival, was a key part of the Merry Wake. Anne Ridge wrote, The kind of funeral feasting reported from the wake as practiced in the non-elite popular culture of the late 19th and early 20th century Ireland represents a ritual intensification of experience in the liminal domain of the laid-out corpse, by means of the communal ingestion of tobacco and alcohol on the one hand, and of festive forms of subsistence food on the other.
Likewise, Irish families would sometimes go into debt just to make sure they could properly feed the large number of people that would attend a wake.
Carnivalesque wakes could have many features: storytelling, singing, eating and drinking, games, and other various entertainments. All were found at wakes throughout the many counties of Ireland. This is an easy comparison to carnival celebrations that had music, food, and game as a focus.
We decided to do individual research and read the suggested articles for the topic, then regroup and share what we understood about Carnivalesque. Then we found quotes and wrote a script, found photos and music, recorded the script, and edited the video.
Though we each did research independently, we split some of the tasks for the sake of efficiency. I interviewed the expert whose contribution could be heard in the video, as well as finding the music and images that we used. Additionally, I edited the video and audio and read half of the script. Emma found and read the books we used as sources in the library, wrote the script, and made the citations, in addition to doing half of the narration. The main challenges were finding times we were both available to meet to work on the project, as well as finding sources other than the provided vaccine article.
Decisions that had to be made. For one thing, we had to decide how we wanted to present our research, and then how to divide up the video. How much time do we spend talking about Carnival versus how long do we talk about the Merry Wake, etc. How useful was the exercise? It was interesting and insightful to understanding more about the culture behind Merry Wakes. I think overall we found a new respect for the rich history behind the traditions of Irish wakes.